Welcome everyone to another edition of the Tech Business Roundtable Podcast show. This is a podcast show dedicated to shining a spotlight on tech innovators, entrepreneurs, founders, and the compelling narratives behind the movements they've established. I'm your host, Ryan Davies, and I am hosting today's discussion on the less understood and often overlooked building blocks for entrepreneurial success with Aman Bandvi. Aman is a thought leader and a speaker on key domains at the intersection of government policy, emerging technology, security, defense, cognitive intelligence, and impact. Experienced professional as an advisor for growth and strategies, Aman's building brands, perception management, and public affairs expertise. He lends value in policy advocacy and contributes as a consultant to the Imagine, Build, Audit, Enhance, and Monitor the trust quotient among key stakeholders. He advises organizations to unlock value from emerging technology and adds values to companies, both international and national, in maintaining impeccable relations with their key audiences. Aman, thank you so much for joining today. I am really excited to get your take on this.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. Look
Thank
forward
you.
to an exciting discussion.
Yeah, this is great because I think a lot of times we talk about, some of the big pieces of the puzzle, some of the stuff that, maybe is a little more obvious sometimes to people or that people, tend to have in the spotlight. But when we were talking before and we were kind of getting introduced and going through some things off, prior to the podcast recording here, we talked a little bit about your experience and really how important these overlooked and underappreciated aspects of starting a business are. So let's kind of kick off there, Aman. Tell us a little bit about your experience.
Well, Ryan, I've now completed more than 2 decades in the entrepreneurial journey. And based out of India, this has been more of an exercise in surpassing yourself, because by and large, Indians are not known to be very entrepreneurial when it comes to the new age emerging tech and new businesses. We've been known to be more successful with traditional businesses, the hub and spoke models, for example. As you are aware, for quite some time, India had the pole position as far as software development was concerned. But in the last years, this upcoming countries like Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, they also spruced themselves up and they upped the ante, and we kind of lost that pole position. Now, in the new era which has come in emerging tech, we aim to do good in that particular aspect. And my entrepreneurial journey has seen over the years that founders and entrepreneurs, especially on the tech side, they overlook some very crucial and critical aspects of running a business and making yourself successful. While they're very good at the solution they might provide, at software development, for example, they might be very good at coding, but they lose out on communicating their values to the intended audience. They lose out on how to project themselves effectively. And that is what has, always rankled me, that if I could probably add some value there and handhold them or offer some service or solution or product that can assist young entrepreneurs to be successful and help them in their journey to the next level. I found out that over the years, while people are always very energetic on their own product, finding the right markets, and once they found the market, to even communicate effectively to that market is something that they keep on lagging, and that doesn't come easily to everyone. And this was an opportunity that we capitalized on. We can put it that way, in a lighter vein. And we set out in creating communication product solutions and services over these years. And that has today, over 2 decades, established itself as a flourishing brand in India and elsewhere. We've got a vibrant community. We've got a vibrant solution suite. We've got a lot of associates all over. And just to give an example, India has a very vibrant community of engineering colleges, and nearly numbering around 500, 600. And we are present in around 300 of them in some form of the other. We have clubs in most of the colleges which are giving many different kinds of entrepreneurial boot camps, if you may. And that's been a very enriching journey so far. I'm willing to share some good points that can add value to your esteemed audience if they can, somehow gain value from the experiences that we can share.
That's perfect. I mean, that's why our listeners keep coming back to Tech Business Roundtable podcast show. I mean, it's to be able to get expertise and get some of those insights from, esteemed key opinion thought leaders like yourself. So diving into that, like we said, we want to focus on those overlooked and underappreciated aspects of starting a business, right? So we're talking about you're growing, and besides the obvious, and I think we don't need to necessarily list the obvious, but there are many things that tend to get less attention that are extremely important, that are those foundational building blocks to building a successful business. And as you said, recognizing your market audience and being able to speak to them. So what are some of those in your mind that you see tend to be less focused on, more overlooked, and people end up almost regretting it too late to say, oh, I should have started that earlier. That was something I should have done.
Yes, Ryan, you're bang on. One of the most, overlooked and something I find very tricky and oftentimes shocking is also the communication skills. And coupled with communication skills, the networking ability of the founders and the main leaders of the entrepreneurial journey. They overlook the simple fact that you have to have the people management skills and you need to excel at them. You can have a very nice, valuable product, but if you're not able to convey the value to the intended audience and to your overall stakeholders, it doesn't really cut eyes anywhere. It doesn't do you any good. It, in fact, opens up opportunities for a better competitor to march in. Founders, I'm talking from my experience. Of late, we had an experience quite some years back. We used to laugh around it that most founders are, once they complete their solution and the product and they want to enter the market, the only thing they understand as a communication tool was an NCNDA document, non-compete, non-disclosure.
Mm-hmm.
And before they even started to open their mouths and speaking to anyone about what they are intending to build or have built, they want you to sign a document. This was a big red flag in the Indian and Asian markets, this side of the world. And they are unable to communicate. They don't, polish their communication soft skills also, and the ability to interact. I would club it all together, all into people management skills. You need to effectively deliver the message on what you're doing, why you're good at it, and why should I be listening to you. Whether I should be investing in your product solution, that's down the line. Why should I even be listening to you? So founders need to not be, I would be using some words or phrases that might not be apt, but in the context that we are in, they may fit in. For example, I find founders to be arrogant when they're not able or to communicate effectively and articulate a message in less than 2-3 sentences. Let's put it this way, and that onus lies on the founders. They should invest time, research about it, speak to people, be good networkers. The more you meet people, the more you understand their perspectives, the more you understand how people react to different messaging. That is where you will be able to fine tune your message and communication skills. I find founders to be, most of them, this does not go across the board. I'm only speaking from my experience. Most of the guys are from tech colleges, from engineer and technology backgrounds. They have done some research, or they have stumbled upon a good idea, or good luck to them. They've managed to make a POC, but they are unable to now create an audience for themselves. And this is really a big stumbling block, and one of the reasons why we don't find so many founders and startups on the international scene. Why? Because of very simple communication bandwidth is missing. The foundations are missing, soft skills, networking ability. I find them in a cocoon. They want to rally around in founders clubs. They meet other founders and just be within their own silos. This doesn't work. You need to go beyond. You need to start meeting people. You need to start identifying the stakeholders and go out and meet them. Everything in the past 4 to 5 years, I would say, let's leave the COVID influence aside, though it was one of the biggest, catalysts for
Hmm.
the entire entrepreneurial journey to be confined to online meetings. It's become a norm of sorts. Earlier, it was a fad. We thought it would be a passing fad, just having a Zoom call, or just having an online meeting. Uh, we have always been a traditional people driven market. We need to, they joke about India that they would see something on Amazon, and then they would actually go to a store to actually see, feel it with their own hands, and then come to their homes and then order it on Amazon. So this, while it is in jest, it shows you what this society is all about, and you need to respect that, and you need to come and meet them with halfway, for example, and that can only come with good communication skills, articulating it better, networking, people management skill. This was the missing link, Ryan. And it sounds so easy. It sounds like it is step one, but my experience says the step one has always been neglected. People always start from step two and step three. They've
Yeah.
never even given it the due respect that the step one needed. So importance of good communication, the significance of it, and how to be adept at managing people and understanding them. Whereas all the personality trait articulation gone, we don't see any more of how to assess a personality, how to assess handshakes. So these were the building blocks. We've all lost it in the at the cost of being more vocal, more people oriented, and it's all been confined, and that has resulted in erosion of market capital. This is where the disadvantage has sets in. If you are not able to get clients, what is the role of a founder? The role of a founder, to my mind, is not only to have a good product, but also to ensure there exists a market, and to also convince the market and get paying customers on board. Only hopping from one investing round to the next is not what a good entrepreneur or a founder journey is all about. You need to have customers, and unless the founders or the entrepreneurs can demonstrate it, can lead by example, the company does not really shine. This is to my mind, this is what I have in mind, this is what I wanted to share with everyone, that please take care of communication skills, please hone them, please be more people oriented, please meet people, please walk around, meet people, have a real cup of coffee rather than the Zoom coffee. And as always, we say that there's always a three cups of coffee which cuts the ice. The first cup of coffee where you just get to know each other, the second cup of coffee where they actually listen, give you a patient hearing about your solution, and the third cup of coffee where you sign an MOU or a deal, or it takes you to paying customer. So unless you put yourself on a journey of the three cups of coffee, I believe this will not be a truly success journey. So think about it, folks. Think about the three cups of coffee. This is what I have in mind, Ryan.
I like that. That's really good. That's a great, that's a great way for people to break it down, right? Like people are always looking for a way to remember it. And I love the three cups of coffee. That's going to resonate with me a lot as well with that. But let's talk about, so again, we've talked about communication, the networking ability of founders. Like you mentioned, you've got a lot of smart people. They can recognize a need, they put together a proof of concept, it works, or they think it works, but communicating it and getting it out there, networking is really difficult. But a lot of founders are introverts. A lot of founders have a hard time going outside their comfort zone like that, right? So what are some tips and tricks? What exists out there to help people who really, that really struggles with communication, with networking, with putting themselves out there and getting to know people, that you would recommend?
Uh, I'll speak from what we did, Ryan, and how we assessed this opportunity and
Perfect.
how we addressed it by building a community, by building a think tank, a chamber of commerce, for example. Let me name it for you. It's called the India Blockchain Alliance. Now, let me take you as a case study. Most of the founders, as you rightly said, uh, more than the technical proficiency on the personality front, they seem to be more or less introverts. Why? Because they're more into research, they're more into solving challenges and coming up with good products, and they're always making that product better. They have to break the ice with the stakeholders and actually communicate it better. Now, from a purely mass market perspective, uh, who's listening to you? Number one. and why are they listening to you, and after listening to you, what did you do as a second step. If you keep all this in mind, you will find that you need to be a member of some networking group, which makes it easier for you to break the ice. If you yourself, a founder, is an introvert, let's say, or is not, or is unable to make the first handshake, is not geared up for going across and meeting new people, he can always join a small community. There are flourishing communities all around. We also have communities. Communities give you the first inkling of what lies in store ahead. You'll be meeting a lot of people who are stakeholders. Some might be a competitor, some might be from the industry, some might be retired technocrats, some might be think tanks, thought leaders, some might be even from the media. You need to understand that these are the stakeholders in the real world. And that's what we provide, Ryan, from our India Blockchain Alliance. This is what the think tank is all about. We have a flourishing community which has all these stakeholders come together on a regular basis, exchange inputs, have founders coffee table meets, have think tanks, have roundtables, where it's not an event. A roundtable at any given point of time does not have more than 15 to 20 participants. All are getting equal chance to speak. All are listening to each other. At the end of the day, there's a white paper that comes out, there's a go to action document that comes out, and we as a community then take each founder to the next level by introducing them. And not only introducing them, what we do is we allow the founders sit with him and articulate what is the message he wishes to convey. The message is then addressed and aligned to what the challenges might be in the real world. Founders very normally what they do is they base their solutions based on the research that is available to them in the public domain, or they have an idea which is based on a small set of, let's say, potential prospects who might be willing to enter into that association to see whether the solution they're providing is really addressing this challenge at hand. What we do, Ryan, as a community, once everyone gets talking to each other, we articulate the POC for them. That's a proof of concept or the pilot project. And we assist every founder not only with the requisite skill sets that they need to hone, but also take them to prospect customers and assist them in real world terms, demonstrate how traction is built, how they have to frame their questions wisely, how they have to understand what they do in the real world, how they have to position their solution set from a mindset that was at the research table, at the drawing board, in the real world, and how they have to respond to what the different verticals might pose, what questions might be posed to them, and how they have to answer them. So that is one aspect that we feel that we have significantly added some value in their journey to go to the next step. And I'll also stretch this even further. So many tools are there. I advise all the founders these days to not depend on the marketing and sales on third parties to the maximum extent possible. Articulate what you do, and now we have a plethora of so many tools, open source as well as good tools like Canva, to name a few. There's Zapier, there's Canva. Why don't they use them to articulate and make the first cut? That not only gives them a clear cut indication to their marketing team or the sales team or the graphic or the social media team on what line they should be taking, but also opens up the thinking process and challenges the founder to put his messaging in a very concise and crisp terms within the confines of, let's say, Instagram reel or a graphic for Facebook. So these are the things that they need to be working on. So simple, so easy. Many times we think this is what they must be doing any which ways, but I found in my journey these are the things are more neglected upon. I once asked, we had around 10-20 founders meeting us, and we asked them what would they be suggesting to their investors, prospective investors, that if they get X amount of money, what are they going to do about them? And you won't believe, Ryan. I believe, I don't know whether it is the norm everywhere. 30% of the amount, they were immediately, all of them said that 30% is going to go for social media agencies. They'll be putting that money to third parties to make messaging, to make small graphics for their product, for which they have been investing all their time, research, and everything to come up. And in order to my mind, if you're the owner, you have to take ownership of the product. You have the ownership. You should take the ownership of the messaging as well. This cannot be outsourced at such a level. This is what drove us to think beyond, Ryan. This is what one of the aspects I can share with you.
I love it. I mean, and I want to go back, I want to loop back here a little bit, just because you talked about it before. Beyond a lot of the skills that come obvious when we're talking about networking and growing and things like that, you mentioned things as simple as, a handshake, nonverbal communication. You talked about
Yes.
some of those interpersonal skills and how to build confidence in, and that's a big thing when you're going not just in front of customers, but maybe when you're in front of an investor, you're pitching it a different way, and that emotional intelligence and positivity. Touch on a few of those for me, because I think that was a big thing. Again, we talk about things that go overlooked, and what do they say? Over 90% of communication is nonverbal, right? So there's those pieces too that I think are incredibly important. I know with your networking events and things that you're doing, you mentioned earlier how important that is, and how people should be focusing on it.
I'll give you a small case, Ryan. From our Indian experience, I'll tell you, the biggest client for any new tech which is coming out is the government. And we have a lot of PSUs, which are public sector enterprises, public sector units, which are larger and most of them are Fortune 500. For example, ONGC, Indian Oil, these are very big entities. So it's very obvious for a founder to think that if they are able to strike the right chord, if they are able to demonstrate effectiveness of their solution to these giants, and it would be an easy kill to come inside. And come inside means they would be easy to convince these PSUs to give them a order. Now, where the founders flounder, Ryan, is that they do not research it properly from the market aspects, and also from the personality, like we touched upon the point of non-verbal communication and networking. This is where it comes into play. The PSUs are large elephants. They are organizations which employ in excess of 60,000, 70,000, in some cases a lakh and above employees. And so most of the persons who are employed in PSUs are there, and who will be being judging the founder solutions are normally are those who have completed 25 to 26 to 27 years of experience. So they are well entrenched. They have their own line of thinking. They have their own perspective of looking at things. And they are I will not use the word suspicious, but they are hesitant to offer a good project to upstarts, in their mind, in their definition, to which we call youngsters, because most of the magical founders or the magical softwares which have come out in recent times have been from college school dropouts, and which is a respectable thing to do, because that's where ingenuity steps in. But to convince these senior professionals who have given a lifetime of the job doing the same thing, or being in a specific position, is where the communication and networking skills come to the fore. I always say to a lot of founders who come for advice that unless you have patience, unless you can wait, unless you know the waiting game, unless you know that you have been, let's say, we cannot go back in time, so we are still, India is an emerging country, so it's on its way to progress, to put it softly. Now they need to understand that it is not always the tech that runs runs the show or calls the shots. You need, when you go and meet people, people have other things at hand. Sometimes their previous meeting overruns and you have to wait. Sometimes it get cancelled. Sometimes you are requested to come on a different date, for example. This is routine. This has to be taken in the right spirit. You need to understand what patience is all about. If you're not able to articulate small human emotions correctly, that's not going to work. This is one thing that should be brought to the fore. Second, from a perspective of emerging economies and of a country as India and nearabout, and Asian, most Asian countries are the same. In terms of interpersonal skills, when you're meeting seniors, they have completed a good amount of their lives doing things in a structured manner, in a different format, and they have never, for example, I always say, for them, it's always 1, 1.5, 2, 2.53, 3.54. This is the journey it takes. For a startup, it should be 1 can lead you straight to 3.2 also. They don't understand that. So the onus lies on me to tell them what hustling is all about in a patient manner, because at the end of the day, what am I doing? I'm dealing with a human mind. I'm dealing with a person who's my senior. So if I don't have the patience to wait, to make him explain, if I do not uh, bring him to be convinced of my ability to help him, if I'm not able to articulate a message properly, it does not resonate with him, it does not reach him, and if I'm not able to adjudge my, my way of thinking with him, it's not being aligned properly, it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. And that's exactly what I tell everyone, that you need to think from the market perspective and perspective from a prospect. That's exactly what happens. Ryan, what happens, how does it impact the founders? I'll tell you. They base their Excel sheets, for example, on the prospect that 2 or 3 PSUs will take them, and the minimum order level can be this. But once they start moving around in the market, they are not able to cut an so they start employing people. They start getting dependent on customer acquisition, on employees or third parties, which is the second red flag for me. Communication being one, networking being two, and the ability to convince a paying client on your metal alone is something that, if they are not able to do, is a red flag for us. And this is where the case study would come, handy, that they need to understand their prospect better. They need to communicate, they need to network, they need to understand what the other person's way of thinking has been, will be, and how to align themselves with what you wish to communicate to them. So this is what Ryan I had in mind.
That's, again, just incredibly invaluable, and I think there's so many things to take away there, and people probably overlook so many of those pieces, right? Thinking, oh, I'm ready to go to market, I've got this down, and they've fired too fast, right? And your service, like what you do and what you've just provided, sure gives a lot of insight on something like that. Aman, give us a little bit of quick, how people can find you. That's exactly what we're talking about here, is experts like you being able to understand and communicate and network. So let's draw on that a little bit more. How can people find you? How can people get in contact with you? What would you like for people to know about you personally here?
Okay. So our entity, India Blockchain Alliance, is aimed at all technocrats everywhere. We assist them in reaching out to their prospects, to stakeholders, and building traction. We are based out of Delhi, Mumbai, and Goa, and we have a website, indiablockchainalliance.org. And I'm also the keynote speaker, and I'm a routine regular speaker in most of the campuses, so where we have founders clubs. So it's easier to find us, get in touch with us, and we're just a phone call or an email away, mostly accessible to all of them. What will also resonate with most of founder is that most of the pilots currently being done by major PSUs and government entities are a part of a larger consortium. So we are in talks with most of the stakeholders in understanding the challenges, And from that challenges, what we've done, I'll take a minute again, Ryan, to tell you another very interesting thing that we've done, and that would be of immense value to the new founders. What we've done, Ryan, is that we've met all the founders personally. Stakeholders personally in the government sector in India, understood the challenges on ground. Now we've gamified those challenges and taken them back to campuses where we have released them as regular scheduled ideathons. So what founders do now is that whether they're in college or outside, they can go to the nearest campus where the ideathon is being launched, form a team, participate in that particular competition, and that particular solution is then pitched to the challenge owner, which was the PSU or the government sector in this place, and this gives them a good traction building first customer. This is what our promise is to them. So that's another thing that we do.
That's absolutely, I mean, this is absolutely perfect. I mean, when you talk about, these soft skills, we want to make sure there's so many little things that you learn about, right? Make a great first impression, be yourself, tell noteworthy, relevant stories. Don't worry about being the best, but being different and standing out from that perspective. And on our conversation, you captured those things perfectly right now, right? Like, you show your expertise and authority and your trustworthiness amongst the audience from exactly a conversation like this. So please, everybody, take advantage of that. If you're interested in learning more, reach out and learn more about Aman as well. But with that, I think it's a great place for us to wrap up. And I want to take a minute here to thank you, Aman, for this amazing podcast on the less understood and often overlooked building blocks for entrepreneurial success. Aman, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I know all of our listeners got a lot out of this.
It's a pleasure, Ryan. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. If I've been able to add even an iota of value to your esteemed listeners, it would be excellent from my end. I would have made some impact.
I guaranteed, even, just from me personally, I took so many notes and tidbits of information here and things to take away, to share with other thought leaders, business leaders, and whatnot, to help me from that perspective. So I want to thank you again so much for that. I want to thank our listeners as well. We can't do what we do without you. So until we meet again with another amazing TBR episode, I am your host, Ryan Davies. Thank you for listening, and stay curious. Keep coming back for more great information and amazing guests like Aman. Aman, thanks again.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks.
Great. Thanks. Take care, everybody. Thanks.